Welcome. Welcome to Albany's first PechaKucha Night. This is as I said, the very first time we've done it, and I would like to, before we go any farther, give a big round of applause to Marvin Green playing. He'll be playing in intermissions for us tonight. Wonderful, thank you. When we get started, we're actually going to start with, I got an email from the people who started doing PechaKucha in Japan the other day, and it said, you have to play this before you start. So we're going to open with this special email from the people who started PechaKucha in Japan, 2 architects. So special video for Albany.
Tokyo calling, and many congratulations to you, Shelly. Not sure how to pronounce it. Maybe you can tell us. And all the very kind people who've been helping you pulling off this very first PechaKucha Night in Albany. This is Mark Dyson.
This is Astrid Klein.
And we're Klein Dyson Architects over here in Tokyo. 10 years ago, on the 20th of February, we like 20 a lot, we came up with PechaKucha Night. It's a very simple format, as you're going to find out. It's 20 images and 20 seconds each. 6 minutes, 40 seconds later, the next presenter is on. All this to prevent 2 chatty architects from hugging the mic for too long. And there must have been, many people must have had the same problem because PechaKucha Night became very popular and is now in 665 cities around the world.
That's right, and this month there are over 100 events, I think 110 to be exact. And we've been wondering why PechaKucha's become so successful or so popular. I think one of the reasons is we don't charge for the format, it's completely free, and that's really allowed it to spread all around the world. I think the other reason is that, probably like in your city too and in Tokyo, there are actually very few places where architects, designers, creative people can show and share their work. Especially if you've only got one project, maybe a house of your parents. You can't really get it into a magazine, it's going to be difficult to have a gallery show because you don't have enough images, but you do have 20 which you can show at PechaKucha Night. Hopefully amongst some friends, maybe some press, maybe even a new client or two. Ashley's going to let us know what PechaKucha actually means.
It means the sound of chit-chat in Japanese, as in PechaKucha, PechaKucha, PechaKucha. And yeah, it is a bit of a tongue breaker, and many people don't know how to pronounce it. We don't mind, be creative with it, but what it doesn't mean, it's not pressure cooker, it's not Machu Picchu, and it's not PechaKucha Night, it's PechaKucha Night.
That's right, and over at PechaKucha.org you can find all the latest news. We blog 4 or 5 times a day about all the goings on around the world. So if you're taking photographs tonight, please send them through and we'll blog about your event. If you're taking video with good sound, which we hope you are, please send us through the data and we can convert it into our presentation format to go up on our website. We have over 1,000 presentations online that have been viewed over 2 million times. So it's a really great way for you to show the creativity of Albany out to the rest of the world. So,
have lots of fun. PechaKucha!
From Tokyo, have a great, great night. See you soon.
Plus, it saved me from trying to teach you how to say PechaKucha. In our office, it took us probably a week with my staff, and there's a little cartoon that plays online, and it's do-do-do-do-do-do, PechaKucha, do-do. So we were walking around the office singing the song, but she says it beautifully. I went to a Santa Cruz PechaKucha, and he said PechaKucha, and I was a little bit embarrassed for him, so. This program is a part of At the Center. We do the last Friday of each month. We offer something different. So this night is our PechaKucha Night. We'll do 3 more after tonight, PechaKuchas. So if you're interested in presenting and you get hooked on it, then you can send Casey, our wonderful slide person, a note. So 20 slides, 20 seconds, 6 minutes and 40 seconds of wonderful information. Tonight you're going to learn about slow transportation and home brewing and how a tree goes from a tree to a bowl. We're going to learn about creeks and pictures from climbing Mount Shasta and a lot of other inspirational things, photography and some art. So let's get started. Our first presenter tonight is Matthew Ridgway. If you'd like to come up, Matthew. He's a transportation planner with 20 years of experience. And he says he's an author of many geeky transportation resources for the Institute of Transportation Engineers and UC Berkeley. So Matthew Ridgway, Slow Transportation.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is a first for me too. So my presentation is about a convergence of trends in convergence of trends that influence transportation and how they might change our transport going forward. So the first of those trends is global warming, which all of you, I'm sure, have probably heard about. And it's resulting in sea level rise. It's resulting in a lot of jurisdictions looking into climate action plans and things we can do to really dramatically reduce our carbon outputs. I don't know if you're aware that in urban areas, generally 60% of the carbon output is coming from mobile sources, i.e. you all driving and me too. So it's a big part of reducing our footprint in terms of climate actions relates to controlling how much we drive. Another big trend is energy costs. Energy costs in terms of gasoline, in terms of heating your home, are going up dramatically, and I think that's probably not just a blip. It's probably going to continue in perpetuity. And I'll talk a little bit about how that could have some positive impacts for us in terms of essentially changing the balance of how effective it is to receive goods from long distances. Another major trend within our society is related to health. So obesity is now at epidemic proportions in this country. It is related to high incidence of asthma, high incidences of diabetes. Our children are the first children in the U.S. History to have a shorter lifespan than we have, which I think is a really sad state of affairs. The next major trend is baby boomers retiring. So we have a whole host of people many of whom are looking to move back into central cities, into places where they can be close to goods and services, into areas where they can essentially walk and bicycle and use transit and maybe have fewer automobiles. We also have another trend occurring with respect to our young people, and that is that no longer is the car the cool, hot thing. You're more likely to get out your phone or your iPad and show that to somebody and say, this is what defines me and makes me cool, as opposed to a 1965 Mustang. We have a lot more transit-oriented development. I don't know if you're aware, but our metropolitan planning organization called MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, has developed priority development areas in the Bay Area, and that's where all the transportation dollars are going for the next 6 or 7 years. And those are exclusively in areas that have heavy transit use, rail stations, ferry stations, and so forth. The result of all that, and actually that's really sort of responding to a market demand, which is that we have more single-family houses than we know what to do with. So that some economists say that we have built enough suburban single-family houses to meet market demand for the next 20 years, that the big market demand is now for housing in the cities. And that's actually what the recession bore out as well. The other major change is this whole share economy. So we're sharing houses, we're sharing cars, we've got bike share rolling out in the Bay Area in August. We have fewer need to own our own and store our own vehicles. We can now share them, and that provides opportunities to reinvent where we've been putting those things, because cars actually occupy a lot of space. The other thing is that it's pretty phenomenal. For the last many decades, vehicle miles of travel, which is the amount of trips and distance of trips people travel in the US, had been increasing for 4 or 5 decades, and in 2005, it peaked. It actually started to go down, which means we don't necessarily need a lot of new roadway transportation facilities. So this presentation is about slow transport. I obviously stole that term from Alice Waters, who came up with the slow food movement. And the idea was that she said you should get out, you should get in the garden, you should grow your own food, or you should buy locally, you should take the time to prepare your own food, and that if you did that, you would have healthier lifestyles and potentially more enjoyment in your life. So this is a vision of the future that is sort of a similar bent about what if we all were to respond to those trends by walking more, by cycling more, by living closer to goods and services, and what benefits that would have in terms of reduced car usage and less pollution in our roadway, in our systems. As I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons that so many goods are transported from all over the place, Argentina imports oranges, we get most of our shoes made in China, is that the cost of moving things across the sea is ridiculously inexpensive. So there's actually some benefits to the US economy potentially of having higher costs to transport goods, and that it creates jobs potentially here. The result of that, of this general set of trends, might be that we have healthier people who are walking and cycling more, we have lower levels of obesity, and we have better air quality. Those are not bad outcomes, although I would also add that we'll probably have higher costs for goods and services. Then the other thing we'll get is people moving closer and closer to goods and services. So as this sort of trend continues, and if more people move into the central cities and people start to use those central cities, we're likely to see more businesses spring up. And those businesses are very likely to offer entrepreneurial opportunities for young people, for people who just are entrepreneurial. And it's interesting to note that local jobs tend to have much better benefits and much better pay than jobs for like Walmart and Costco and the other places where we have been buying those goods and services. So could that mean that we get return to the full-service neighborhood? I think we are very luxurious in that we have Solano Avenue right here. There's not a lot of areas that have something like a Solano Avenue where you can get almost all of your goods and services met on one street. And could the result of all of that be that we actually get more local jobs, jobs that are grown in our own community, that the money is returned to our community because the entrepreneurs live in our communities as opposed to wherever the guy who owns Walmart lives. And then does that in turn give us an opportunity to reinvent those areas, to take those areas that had been sprawl and rethink how they should be operating and what's the best and highest use of that land? And then also the next slide is going to show a field of parking. So does it give us an opportunity to also reinvent the fields and fields of parking that we have? It's interesting to note that in most urban areas, about 40% of the land, just land in general, is occupied by items related to cars, either road widths or parking structures or parking lots. So 40% of our urban land is tied up in moving automobiles around, which is a phenomenal amount. And think about the opportunities to reuse that land if we didn't have as many cars on it. And then the final slide is just, does that give us an opportunity to sort of reinvent the middle class? Does this reinstallation of U.S. manufacturing, of local entrepreneurs starting local shops, give us an opportunity to really sort of reinvent ourselves as a country and invest in our country ourselves? Thank you.
Well done, Matthew. You had to go first. Your first time doing it. Very good, very good. There is a part of this, a cheering for people who have accomplished doing a PechaKucha, because it's pretty hard to do. So our next speaker is ready to go. She's been ready to do this presentation. She knows it like nobody else. Susan Schwartz used to be a journalist, but now runs an all-volunteer force, the Friends of Five Creeks, was founded in Albany in 1996. Is that right? So she's going to talk to you about creek restoration.
Well, not really. I'm going to talk to you about a creative project of the people of Albany, which is the fantastic natural areas that you have preserved in your very small city. This is, after centuries of Native American occupation, what Albany was like. Mostly grasslands. Almost the only trees were on the north side of Albany Hill. That's Fleming Point. This is a plan of the same thing. There's another summit on Albany Hill. There are large marshes to the north and to the south. These South Creeks, Codornices and Marin, don't reach the bay. They don't even reach the marsh. It was a very different place. The changes were often quite violent. This is the explosion of the dynamite plant at Albany Hill about 1900. That north summit was dynamited, Fleming Point was dynamited, Point Isabel was dynamited. The powder companies planted those eucalyptus. The marshes were filled with slaughterhouses at both marshes, and garbage dumps. Cerrito Creek on the north in that big marsh was pushed into this little narrow channel and basically filled with weeds and forgotten. And restoration started maybe 20 years ago, we can say. In 2003, a state grant dug a new channel for Cerrito Creek next to El Cerrito Plaza. My group, Friends of Five Creeks, has maintained that ever since and done fill-in planting. It is now a wonderful urban oasis. If you go to El Cerrito Plaza, please check it out. We've worked for 13 years on the creek below San Pablo Avenue. It's really transformed. You may see some familiar faces in the upper right there. This really has been a project of the city of Albany. And this is what you have now. There's El Cerrito's very urban Creekside Park facing Albany's much less urban Creekside Park. I don't have a picture of the coyote, but the deer, the possums, there are raccoons, there are all kinds of birds. People enjoy this in many kinds of creative ways. Some of the oaks that were there with the Native Americans are still on the north side. The mortar rocks are there. And people find often somewhat illegal, but very pleasant ways. Those BMX bicycles jumps built by those kids are against the law. I think a certain amount of this is really a good thing. And also the traditional swings on Albany Hill, which, as many of you know, come and go on a regular basis using those eucalyptus planted by the dynamite companies, as do the monarch butterflies that spend the winter there. There you'll find fantastic wildflowers both on the hill and on the north face. This is the waterfront, earliest pictures I've got. But you can see there is no bulb. There's a white sand beach extending south from Fleming Point into Berkeley. And then the bottom picture, 1946, Buchanan has been built as a peninsula out into the bay, and Fleming Point just at the bottom there has been dynamited and the racetrack built. Subsequent to that, debris extended the bulb out into the bay. There were lots of dreams by the government to have high-rises and marinas, but after 20 years, the citizens stopped bay fill, and now the bulb is, let's say, an eccentric and ephemeral art gallery. I know it's a problem, it's a headache for the city, but it's a fascinating place, and really people like it a whole lot better than a lot of really what we call developed parks. There are all kinds of wonderful things to do out there, and the wildlife likes it pretty much too. Berkeley destroyed its beach, but the bulb stopped the current, so Albany got a new beach, used in many ways. That's environmental artist Zach Pine teaching people to make sandballs in the lower left. This beach will be get amenities and be I don't know what to say, not restored because it's new, but improved by the East Bay Regional Park District soon. There's a small new salt marsh that's been built up. And the flats, what's there, are still a fantastic wildlife refuge. In fall to spring, shorebirds at low tide, ducks at high tide. Go down Buchanan and take a look from those wonderful bird watching platforms. Codornices Creek, a work in progress. This is at your south border. Started by citizens in the 1990s. One block was daylighted, taken out of a culvert for $25,000. For a $3,000 grant, we built this observation railing under the BART tracks, made that little oasis. In the process, local architect Todd Jersey, who designed that railing, also discovered that there were trout in this creek, and after some time we convinced the experts that yes, there really were trout. They didn't think that was possible, and they are indeed threatened steelhead, and the result of that has been millions of dollars of professionalized restoration below San Pablo. This is still very much a work in progress. These pictures are a few years old, but they show what it was like and what it's like just after one of these restorations. We and others do a great deal of work trying to maintain this. I'd have to say the future and whether it'll ever be finished is uncertain, but particularly on the block from 6th to 8th. I think you'll enjoy walking there. You'll find bluebirds as well as those hawks and, of course, turkeys. This is Albany, right? So you got to have turkeys. There's still more to go at St. Mary's, which used to be this wonderful Peralta Hotel. Your history is fascinating. There's been a project that let the steelhead move up into Berkeley. They weren't all in Albany now. And Creekside Apartment is something that can be done. In this small city, it's amazing what you have. It shows what you can have right at home. There is no end to this story. There are always problems. The upper pictures, there's always going to be work. We invite you to join us. But particularly, I'd just like you to get out, and if you have not seen these places, go take a walk. These handouts are on the back table. Thank you very much.
Well done, Susan. And Susan leads wonderful walks that are through the Senior Center. She leads groups on walks all over the Bay Area. If you haven't had a chance, they're an activity guide, and they're just fabulous. And she does them. Are they every Thursday?
No, that's just once a month. But
Once a month.
Check our website.
Check the website, definitely. Okay. Well, we have one more speaker, and then we're going to have a short intermission and give you guys a chance to stretch and maybe have a glass of wine or something on the patio. And our next speaker is Dorothy Brown. She's a local photographer, and she says she likes to tell stories with her camera, and that she runs a blog that is called Small Stories from Real Life. So, Dorothy Brown.
I didn't grow up in Albany, but I've lived here for 24 years, which is longer than I've lived anywhere else. It's my children's hometown. If a town could give a commencement address, these are some of the things I think Albany might say. Keep learning how to do new things. It won't be easy at first. You might fall down. It isn't supposed to be easy. Choose the pursuits that matter to you and keep trying. Be thankful for the folks who were there to cheer you on when all you had to do was show up and do your best. Those people and those experiences provided such an important foundation. Because eventually they do keep score. Whether you win or lose will start to matter, but so does how you play the game. Maybe that matters even more. Always play fair. School and work and life may be hard sometimes. Keep something in your life that brings you joy, and then let yourself enjoy it. Whenever your glory days are, know that the next group is coming up behind you, ready to take their turn. Don't begrudge them their moment in the spotlight. Come back and cheer them on. You can sing along. Make a place in your days for creativity, however you define it. More than likely, it won't be how you make your living, but it will enrich your life. Gather with people occasionally. Whether you knit or sing or discuss books, doing it in community, live, offers something you can't get in the virtual world. Take it old school from time to time. The old movie theaters and ice cream parlors and small shops may not be around forever, and you'll miss them. Go outside. It could be as simple as spending time in a garden with a cup of coffee and a good book. Find your own favorite alfresco experience and make time to indulge in it. Make time to celebrate. You don't need a reason. Be there when your friends and neighbors need you. And be grateful for the people in your life who go above and beyond what is required. Say thank you. Remember how great it feels when your efforts are recognized. A gold star might just be a sticker, but it matters. If you ever have the chance to lift a child up with a word of praise, do it. Remember that nothing gets done by magic. If it happened, somebody did it. Appreciate the people who do the work. Resist the urge to be cynical. It isn't as cool as it might seem. It's okay to have fun putting up holiday lights in the rain. A big part of your hometown is your home. Whatever your rituals or traditions or shared moments are, may you look back on them with fondness. It's easy to take the familiar for granted. Remember that we live in an area that is a dream destination for many. Every once in a while, look around with vacation eyes. Appreciate and experience the wonders that are close at hand. Stay curious. Fascinating things are happening right in your own backyard. Most people insist that they're not very interesting. That's not true. Everyone has a story to tell. Listen to the stories. Take what you've learned here and go out into the wide world. Explore, experience, live your life. And know that there are folks back home who are rooting for you. All things considered, this is a pretty nice place to be from.
Very good, Dorothy. The last image always gets me because that was in 2008 when we celebrated the city's centennial and we had dinner with Albany. It happens every 2 years now. But Dorothy is the photographer for that event every year. So that was the very first toast to Albany for a 100-year birthday. So it was a great picture. Thank you, Dorothy. We're going to take a little bit of a break, so get a chance to stretch or get some water, or soda, or beer, or wine, and we'll come back and we'll get started. A little bit of music, I think, too, from Marvin. You guys want to grab your seats? We're going to get started. How's everybody doing? That's pretty cool. We have some people out in the lobby. I'm really excited about the next presenter. I'm excited about all the presenters. Albany is full of talented and creative people, and I'm always really excited when they volunteer to do things like this. This guy's special because he's actually a City of Albany employee. He is our urban forester, and he, I think, could be the most popular employee ever in the City of Albany. Now, I affectionately named him Tony the Tree Man. I think he has a last name, but I don't know what it is. He has a Twitter account. He has a Facebook account. He's the Tree Man, and he's going to talk about taking trees to bowls. And if you've noticed around this room, he is our artwork for tonight, plus a couple pictures from one of our next presenters. So Tony the Tree Man.
Life is the pith. It starts and it ends, thin and frail, thick and cracked. Life is the pith. Thuya plicata, the great western red cedar. Pressed needles, muscular trunk, splits with ease. Let's make shakes. A chest for treasures, no insect enters. Acer macrophyllum, your big leaf maple, marking the great divide. Pathways diverge, your footsteps alone, echo and follow. The arbutus, beautiful in its decay. On the edge, this is a frontier tree. Dark red bark, so swiftly gone. Long log, masquerading as a bench. or just a resting point for wayward travelers. See the forest, see the tree. Duly noted. A billet, half share, brave promise, among the cracks, splits, and shakes, toss onto the fire pit, or push forward, success. Blank, blankety blank. Where it ends up, nobody knows, only Woody knows. Neglect not the conifers, the gymnosperms, wrongly called the softwoods. Pines and fir, true cedars, false hemlocks, Pinus halepensis, Aleppo pine. Starts and stutters, half-baked by the sun. What is in the hand, by the eye, something afoot. Green as the wood slides, morphed, misshapen, we are but torn by the tension, the compression. All conflicts are internal. Camphor burl in all its confusion and glory. Without fetter, no control. Eyes of cats, figures of eights, burls go bowling. Jennifer Juniper, we call you the Hollywood, but I like your Latin name, Juniperus chinensis torolosa, tortured juniper. Oh, this was supposed to be the last slide. Just a box of rain to ease the pain, or a ribbon in your hair. Superman's swirls. That last little box was a Jerry box. This is the juniper. And this one, Olay, Olea europaea, olive to sweeten the drink. All we need is olive wood. A bowl comes like circles in water. Cinnamomum camphora, also camphor bowl. Bengay in tree form. Dark is the heart, sap turns brown. Love that smell. A natural edge and bland color. The American sweet gum. Liquid amber styraca flua. Phooey to this tree. Nice bowl, though. Nara, a bowl with exotic bloodlines from the Far East. Good lines of early and late, rays seen through, crossed through, like all wood, warm to the touch. Don't let it bring you down. It's only castles burning. Find someone who's turning, and you will come around. Thank you.
Tony Wolcott, very good. That was wonderful. Our next speaker, we're going to change gears here a little bit, and his name is Adam Weiss, and he'll be talking about American beer.
Hello, thanks for having me out tonight. When I took on the task of creating a PechaKucha pronunciation correctly about beer, I decided to focus on beer in America because beer is my passion. When we think about beer in America, the thing that comes to mind first is probably the big three breweries in America: Anheuser-Busch, Coors, Miller Brewing Company. They've all been around for a very long time, founded in the 1800s by German families, German men. For most of their history, they've been controlled by those same families. But in the recent decade, we've reached a period where international conglomerates now rule. Budweiser was hostily taken over by InBev, which is a Belgian company controlled by Brazilian billionaires, and now has AB InBev. Miller was bought by South African Brewery Group, which is, strangely enough, located in London. And Molson and Coors shook hands across the border to create Molson Coors. So last year, the Brewers Association published this article called Craft versus Crafty, which highlights some of the craft beer counterfeits that these big breweries are putting out to break apart the craft beer market. You've probably had some of them. Blue Moon is actually Coors. Shock Top is actually Budweiser. So we get now to my favorite part of beer, which is the craft beer. Craft beer is growing exponentially at this time. It produces beer that has more flavor than those light American lagers that most people see on the shelves. There's craft beer all over the United States, and last year we actually reached a 125-year high for the number of breweries in the United States, which is amazing. The temperance movement and the prohibition, pretty much quashed breweries. And in the late 70s, we reached a low, and we've grown since then. In a moment, I'll talk about why I believe that we've grown since the late 70s. And so craft beer is seeing this growth where they now occupy about 7% of the market of all beer sold, which is still a small percentage, but it's the largest of their time. It's actually in the last 5 years doubled. It was a $5.7 billion industry in 2007, and now it's a $12 billion industry last year. So why do I think craft beer has grown since the 70s? Well, Jimmy Carter did something great, and he legalized homebrew nationally. Then it was left to the states to legalize it, and Alabama and Mississippi were the lagging behind. They finally legalized homebrewing in 2013, this year. So it's now legal in all 50 states. So if you're interested in homebrewing, it's a great hobby. I love homebrewing. The first thing you want to do is go find your local homebrew shop and support them. Talk to them, learn about what you need to do to homebrew. This is my local homebrew shop, More Beer in Concord. And you'll just need some equipment. You've probably got a large pot where you could boil, and you can buy larger pots if you want. You just need some equipment like buckets and carboys and some cleaning tools and such to be able to brew the homebrew. A kit like this would probably run you under $100 to get started, and it's how I started, was with just simple things like this. So then you'll need ingredients to brew the beer, and according to German purity laws, there are only 4 ingredients that are allowed in beer: water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. Anything else besides that is an adjunct, like some of the big breweries like Budweiser uses rice as a large sugar source. So water is the biggest component of beer. It's mostly water. Water makes a difference. You can brew with stuff out of your tap and make fine beer. You could just remove the chlorine by running it through a filter or letting it sit overnight and let it evaporate off. But the mineral content makes a difference. It'll make better beer, but you can make it with just your tap water. Malted barley produces the flavor profile of the beer, the base beers. It's what is the starch that's converted to sugar in the mashing process. And you can skip that process, and this is how I started. You just buy extract that it's already done for you. Then finally we get to hops, which is my favorite ingredient. It provides balance to the sweetness of the barley. It provides flavor and aroma, those piney, citrus, florally notes that you smell in like some of the great IPAs and pale ales. There are dozens and dozens of varieties of hops that are used in all beers all over the world. And then we get to yeast. And so the saying goes that brewers make wort, which is what you've done when you combine the other 3 ingredients and boil it, and yeast make beer, because the yeast consume the sugar that is created in the wort. And basically, pee out alcohol, which is what we love, right? And that is done through a process called fermentation, which is my favorite part to watch, because if you have a clear carboy like this, you can see the worts swirling in there as the yeast are consuming the liquid, and you get bubbles out the top as they release carbon dioxide. So once the fermentation is done, which takes about 2 weeks, all that's left is to carbonate and enjoy it. And you can do carbonation 2 ways. You can force carbonate it in a keg like I've done here, or you can put it in a bottle with some primer sugar and let the yeast produce a little more CO2 to produce that carbon dioxide. And that's actually what Sierra Nevada does in all their bottled beer. So finally, we get to my favorite part of beer is drinking it. So people have a misconception that colder beer is better, and that's what the big breweries tell you because their beer sucks at warm temperatures. Beer is actually best served between 40 and 60 degrees, depending on the style. It does make a difference. So put away your frosted glasses. And speaking of glassware, those straight-sided shaker pint glasses that you get at the bar are actually probably the worst vessel for serving beer, but they are cheap and stackable. You want something that usually comes in at the top to trap that aroma and focus it on your nose when you're enjoying the beer to get the best pleasure. There are all different types of glass depending on the style of beer. So this was my thoughts on beer. I think the bottom line is find what you like and drink what you like. Don't let other people tell you what to like. But I encourage you to try new things and especially drink local, because they are in the Bay Area. They are there is so many options here. So thank you.
Now, I believe that Adam has a treat for us tonight. Is that right? Okay. He's going to let us sample the beer he brought tonight. So we'll either do it at our intermission if you want to do the second intermission, or we'll just do it at the very end. So I'll gauge your level after this speaker. Our next presenter tonight is Jim Scott, and he's a local photographer and part-time musician. And he says that he is hoping to capture the one shot that he can be proud of. And this is Mr. Jim Scott.
Thank you. It was a self-portrait I did about 5 years ago. It was one of the first when I got back into photography. And I was actually watching a band and thinking that'd be a pretty cool band to play with if I ever got to play with a band. And now, as of about 3 years, I've been playing guitar with that band. So, and these are a couple of band leaders I play with occasionally. The guy on the left is who I normally play with, named Mark. And it's at a party at a wood shop. There's a lot of it's kind of parties that people throw together for, anyway. And this is at Ashkenaz Music and Dance in Berkeley. And I try to get a view from what most people wouldn't get to see, so it's basically what you would see from the stage, looking towards the dancers. And this is also at Ashkenaz from the stage, the swing event. It's actually my girlfriend's band, and that's her in the middle. And captures a few of the dancers out there. And this is also at Ashkenaz. This is a musician from Louisiana named Wilson Savoy. He's from a very big Cajun family of musicians. And this is also at Ashkenaz. This is Michelle Schacht. She's a pretty big major label artist. But I always trying to capture action and emotion in my shots, energy. This is a band in festival in Louisiana, and I was trying to do a multi-image panorama shot, which I did, and it turned out the bass player moved from one side of the stage to the other while I was doing it. It's kind of funny because he's playing the biggest, most unmobile instrument, but this is another Bay Area musician, Andrew Carrier. His father was pretty big Louisiana royalty in the Cajun world. He's actually 74 years old and has more energy than most people I know. Does not take breaks during his shows. This is, I forget his name, but he's a bass player in Brooklyn, New York. Almost didn't get into this venue because they had a dress code. You had to be dressed in vintage clothes, and I kind of showed up like this, and they wouldn't let us in, but they did. This is in New Orleans. Lots of street musicians in the French Quarter. And I've actually seen this guy in several different areas of the French Quarter on different days, so he gets around. I don't know who he is, but very good musicians here. This is Mardi Gras Indian from New Orleans. They do a lot of parades. You'd have to Google it. There's a whole lot of info on it, but they make these costumes every year by hand. They make a new one, and it's all hand beaded. And this is another musician from Louisiana at a festival. No big story here. I just like the picture. I like the accordions. They're always very colorful, even if you don't like the sound of them. They're a piece of art. Anybody know who this is? No? Norton Buffalo, he's from the Bay Area. I kind of like this one because he appears to be very still, except for his hand, which is just a blur. It's just the way he plays. This was also at Ashkenaz. It's kind of one of those oops pictures where I was trying to take a picture of the dancers and somebody bumped into me and jiggled my camera, and this is what came out. So if you look closely, you can actually see ghost dancers in there. But it's actually, I had that blown up, and it's in my house now. So another Bay Area musician, Lloyd Meadows, from the Zydeco band. It's pretty much how he looks all the time, but grin is permanently pasted on his face. So I've asked him when he dies, can he please leave his teeth to me in his will? This is it, Ashkenaz also. His name is Mitch Polzak, a honky-tonk musician. It's one of my favorite photos because it's really hard. It's challenging to get good lighting at Ashkenaz. You don't want to use a flash and annoy the musicians. This is at another festival in Louisiana. It's Keith Frank, pretty famous Zydeco musician. Once again, a very artful-looking accordion. This is another Bay Area musician. She also plays with the person in another picture that was 74 years old. She's about 24, and they play together a lot, and they're pretty even when it comes to energy level. Somehow, they're extremely entertaining to watch, the interaction. So, Louisiana musician. It was at a festival in San Diego. He wasn't really scheduled to play. He just ended up sitting in with several different bands and really stealing the show. And the gold teeth are fake, but. And this is Tom Regney playing with Michael Doucette. He's probably one of the most famous Cajun bands, Beau Soleil. And this was for Ashkenaz's 40th anniversary, and this was actually also published in is that magazine? What book is it? Anyway, published in a Bay Area music magazine. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, now do you guys want a little bit of a break? Or are you good to keep going on? My only question is if Alex is here with his group. Oh, he is? Okay, good. We were going to take a break, but if you guys are all right, we have two more, and we're going to finish with a bang. So, but I'm checking on Alex and stalling because I told him he wouldn't be on until 8:05. So we should just start clapping for him. Alex Lerman is from the Berkeley Improv. And as you guys know, PechaKucha is 20 slides, 20 seconds. And those are the two rules. But there is no rule that you have to actually know what your slides are. And so for Alex's group, we said that we would make his slides for him. And since he's an improv, coming, I hope, we thought he could figure it out, right, and make it up. So I think there are 4 of them from the Berkeley Improv group. And so while I have a second, I will say that this has been streaming live on YouTube, which is, my mom is probably watching it. And our KALB is recording it, and they will submit the presentations to PechaKucha, so our Albany people will be represented on the site. And here they come. The Berkeley Improv group, Alex Lerman and his group. Come on up. Thank you.
We are from Berkeley Improv. We are going to be making all this stuff up on the spot for you guys. This is our very first PechaKucha watching. So be gentle on us. We're going to do our best, not knowing what the hell these slides are going to be, courtesy of Shelley and Casey. Can everyone hear us? Yep. Okay. Good. So together we're going to be making up a story for you and maybe even somehow incorporating these random unknown slides. What is a title of a story never before written? Anybody here? Not all at once. That's a great storyteller, just like that. Let's have a few.
Shopping cart widow.
Shopping cart widow. Do we like that? Sure. Okay.
Armin, nice.
It was Elaine's 60th birthday. She has spent a lifetime of laughter, a lifetime of tears, and it all came to this day of celebration. She was surrounded by her family, her beloved pets.
Her most beloved pet of all, Franklin, her baby pig. You see, throughout her life, she kept a lot of animals in her house. Cats, dogs, the usual birds. But then one day, Franklin came to her porch, and
It was when she was waiting for that ticket, and she knew she was going to get a ticket. There was Franklin at the porch, and this came to her on her 60th birthday. Franklin, my beloved little piggy, and that ticket that arrived the same day in my life as you did. Oh.
While her son was at football practice, the pig came with the letter and told her that she would never see him again. But she was being banished to the land of Walmart. Dark, terrible land with endless shopping carts and no children.
She had to change her political leanings in order to work at Walmart. Being a Berkeleyite her whole life, she had to adopt a more conservative Texan lifestyle. And she had, what's worse, is she had to sell her beloved pig and
Her daughter. For as a shopping cart widow, she had to give up all of her worldly possessions and live on the meager supplies in a super outlet facility. Pigless, daughterless, sonless.
hitchhiking through the cold streets of New York City, she abandoned her Walmart job and left her son with her sister and decided to embark on a new path in life. Now being widowed with nothing left, she had nothing to lose. So now, big city.
and the photographic eye. She realized, I'm always being photographed. Here, there, in the bank, in the line, on the street corner. In my mind's eye, I am the photograph of myself, and this is my wisdom. She remembered.
She remembered science, life outside New York. Cold, dark city with no vegetation. She wanted pictures of more than just herself. She wanted pictures of the world. So she ventured away from New York to a new and tropical land.
With her Mac Pro, 30-inch screen with SSD. Of course, she had never used a computer before, as you can tell by this photograph. Which led her down a very dark
path. But never fear, for she had donuts. And donuts have never failed to lift her spirits. So although Expedia might lead her astray, she always had a friend in these round pastry deliciousness. She ended up.
She ended up once again with a new companion. Bobby. She loved him so much that she taught him how to skateboard so that she could take a new approach on life to possibly
hunt for food like a bear. All these aspects of her life came to her on her 60th birthday. The bear hunt, the Walmart years, the little piggy Franklin, and the beautiful little bulldog. On her.
But something was missing. She needed a man in her life. No more bears, pigs, dogs. She needed something real. So she got on the plane and said, the first man I see on this plane, I'm going to marry. She turned to the man, which she realized was a woman.
Yet that instinctive chemical love could not be denied. And so, with the recent past repeal of DOMA, they got married. They lived happily ever after.
Of course. So you might ask, why improv? Why do we do this? I do this because it brings me joy. Joy like the taste of strawberries on a spring morning. A joy even in times of stress and trial. Improv gives me the tools to kind of, step back, take it easy, and enjoy life.
enjoy life. Improv is you work with other people, a companion, if you will, riding through many different avenues and streets of life to embark on new journeys with a positive outlook on the future ahead and to challenge yourself in new ways.
Even the spills, the lost ice cream school of life, ice cream cone of life, that moment in improv when we screw up, yes, that's what we're waiting for. Failure in improv makes me strong.
This is what improv makes me feel like. I just hope that with the joy that improv brings me, I can do it for the rest of my life until I'm a man of this age, still on stage, playing high kicks, loving every bit of it.
Wow. I want to give our improvisers a huge round of applause, please, for their spectacular. You guys might be inspired to try some of this. If you're thinking to yourself, wow, that looks like I can do that, or wow, I would like to be able to do that, check us out at berkeleyimprov.com. Thank you.
Very good, you guys. That was awesome. Now, we're going to finish tonight with this poor girl I tortured. I was like, I need you, Aviva. She works for me here, and she's only back because she's on summer break. And I said, you just did something fantastic, and you should come talk about it. She's a graduate of Albany High School, and she now is at Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. Get up here, Aviva. Come on. I don't even think she knows what she's here for. I don't know if I even told you. I'm kidding. You're ready to go, right? Yes. Okay. Aviva Prager.
All right. So I climbed Mount Shasta for my aunt who has stage 4 breast cancer with the Breast Cancer Fund, a San Francisco nonprofit that works to prevent breast cancer. So this is a prayer flag that I took up the mountain with me in honor of my aunt, who is very close to my heart. My family's been very affected by breast cancer, so this was perfect. This is the entire climb team. We got a lot of gear from a lot of awesome sponsors that let us do what we do without buying thousands of dollars of new gear. So that was great. So these were pictures. That's the mountain. The top is actually behind what you see as the tallest peak. This is all my stuff that I wore the day before, that I prepared the day before to climb. The boots, the pants, the other shell, another jacket, long underwear, the ice axe, climbing poles. It was a lot of stuff, and the backpack was probably 35 to 40 pounds, and I had to carry everything to base camp, and then I got to drop a lot of stuff. This is us preparing to leave with, again, the mountain in our back. This was my smaller climb team. We climbed together as a team, taking steps together and working as one to climb up the mountain. It's a very long, beautiful metaphor for what it's like to have breast cancer and to go through your life one step at a time. This is the mountain. It looks deceptively small. I thought to myself, wow, I can totally bust this out. It was a lot harder. It makes it look too small. That was very confusing and very stressful. But you can't actually see the summit. You take an alpine start, you start at night. We had poor weather conditions, so we started at 11 p.m., which is usually when I go to bed. But I went to bed at 5 p.m. I got about 2 hours of sleep, and then we had to climb up using headlamps. You can see the lights, which are the town, and you just climb in the dark, which is very preferable because then you can't see the steepness. That's the steepness. You walk straight up, which is rather steep and very painful, but these are some people turning to look around and see what they climbed. Those peaks looked like they were right next to where we were camped, but that took us about maybe 3+ hours to get there, and that was maybe 11,000 feet. You climb rope together, so you climb as one, where it's very important to match your strides with the person in front of you. I find that very difficult because I'm so much smaller than the rest of the climbers. But, you just climb and hope that you can keep going on snow. So that's that. This is another shot that really shows the steepness of the climb and just the weird weather conditions that we had. You see all the rocks and the lack of snow, and you hike with little they're called crampons, but they grab onto the snow and they make walking on rocks very difficult and a little bit scary because you can't balance and you wobble. They took their crampons off to get to the summit. This is Misery Hill. It's you see that Shasta has a little divot and then it goes back up, and Misery Hill is right before you get to the summit. You have to go up this. It's not a very steep incline, but it's more than you want to go up at 14,000 feet after climbing for 6 to 8 hours. This is them climbing, and you can see the steepness, and you can see Black Butte and just the smaller peaks that really looked so close in previous pictures, but that took them about 8 hours to get to there, and they're still not done. But you can see that there are lots of down jackets being worn, which is strange. This is another shot of the mountain and showing it really doesn't look that small. You look like you could just run up the hill, but that doesn't work. You walk very, very slowly but yeah, most people hiked in down jackets because it was so cold. And that was a stop. When you stop, you put on your down jacket, but most people never took their down jackets off after the second stop because it was so cold, and even though you'd think that you would sweat and get gross with the down jacket, it was so cold that you didn't want to take it off. This is the sunrise looking over the town of Shasta and the lower parts of the little mountain range, because Shasta's made up of 4 smaller cone cylinder volcanic things. But it's a very beautiful sight to be up so high and to see so far and to know that all the steps that you took that got you there. Another very, very beautiful sight. Again, making the mountain look really small. I really thought that this mountain was so small and 14,000 feet. When you're at base camp, you're basically at 10,000 feet, so that's 4,000 vertical feet. That's like 4. That's like 4 big hills. It's very high. This is someone on the summit flying your prayer flags. So you take the prayer flags of people that have donated to your climb and you fly them on the summit to remember and honor them. And there's a very beautiful, it's a prayer, but it's not a religious prayer that's on there about like healing and wellness, which is really what the Breast Cancer Fund promotes. This is down on the ground, a little graphic that the Breast Cancer Fund team made showing the position of the 4 climb teams. I was on Team Purple. I made it up to the second notch, right above, or right below the summit. I was at about 13,000 feet before I turned around. You can see that a lot of people summited. The summit is 14,179. And most people, the lowest people got was about 1,100, which is still very, very far. But most people summited, which is impressive given the horrible weather conditions, and we were pressured to go very fast because they wanted to make sure everyone could come down safely. This is me and my girlfriend after I came off the mountain. She was very glad to see me, and I was very glad to not be on my feet because my feet got a little bit crushed in the shoes. So I got a piggyback ride and got carried everywhere I wanted to go that I didn't want to walk. It was very nice. I think everyone should have this when they come off the mountain. These are my supporters, my parents, my sister, my girlfriend, who made me very pretty signs, which is really all you want to see when you come off the mountain, is the people that love and care for you, because the mountain is a wonderful place, but it's very quiet, and you feel very alone with your thoughts. So it was nice to see my family and the pretty signs.
Okay, good. Aviva has information about the hike up here. You guys are interested. Okay, so we are going to close out. Everybody that's still here, please give them a round of applause for being brave and courageous and wonderfully creative. Adam is going to serve up some samples out near the little bar area, and we'll have a little bit of music, and that will be it. Our next PechaKucha will be October 25th. So that's a Friday night, so it's the last Friday in October. Our next At the Center event is next month, and we're doing mixology with the bartender from the Hotsy Totsy, who is actually like an award-winning bartender in the Bay Area. Yeah, so it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I think there's a couple spots left. So check the activity guide. So thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it. This was number 1 of Albany's PechaKucha. Thank you. One last thing, make sure you check out this slab up here. This is one of Tony's pieces, and on all of his work on the side there, and Jim Scott has a couple of his photographs.